What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gear Talk. My name is Jason Girallo, and as always, I am your humble host. We are today talking about the best Les Paul. Is it a Fender? You heard me right. The very best Les Paul. Is it a Fender? So this is the Fender Telecaster FMT. FMT stands for Flame Maple Top. Look at that flame. It is beautiful. This is the yellow color. They have a red and a red cherry burst. I think it's an absolutely stunning guitar. It is mahogany back, mahogany neck, Indian Laurel fretboard. And then these are Seymour Duncan designed pickups with coil tap. So that's pretty cool. So it's got a little bit of the Fender Telecaster-y sounds, but it also sort of gives you a little bit of that Les Paul humbucker with a three-way switch kind of thing. Now, the one thing that this leaves off that I think is so powerful with Les Pauls, whether it's Epiphone or Gibson, is the four controls. So this only has two, so you have your volume and your tone, which I like, but I wish it had four. I wish it was more of a true because then you could blend in the middle position, and this doesn't really let you do that blending. So you really just can, it's both pots on, but you can't control how much of each pot, of each pickup is coming through in your signal. But with that being said, I do think Fender was aiming to compete with Les Paul, with both Epiphone, probably with Epiphone, not so much Gibson, because like I said, this is a $1,000 guitar, which kind of puts it a little bit above the most expensive Epiphones, but definitely in the same ballpark as the tribute Les Pauls, which, kind of stripped down version of a classic Les Paul, where it doesn't have the binding, it doesn't have a gloss finish, it's just a satin finish, it's got less quality pickups, etc. It's an amazing guitar, and I would like to review it on the channel at some point. But this has been sort of a holy grail guitar for me. From the first time I laid eyes on it about a year ago, I was at a local guitar store, and this was actually on sale used, and I just thought it was the coolest looking Telecaster I'd ever seen. Unfortunately, I decided not to buy it at the time, and that is a decision that has I have come to regret. But I've remedied that, and this is I think probably one of the coolest guitars I own. It has a set neck, which is certainly different for Fender. You can see there's the set joint, and it's a beautiful heel joint. I mean, it's super nice and contoured. I think that Gibson could learn a thing or two about heel joints with this. I wish it was one or two piece, but it is not. You can see this is at least three pieces. And I don't know if Fender did the best job matching the three pieces here. You can see there's definitely some difference in color and grain. And that also goes for the heel joint. It's not the best match. But because it's a Fender headstock, there's no tilt back angle, so you don't have to worry about a scarf joint or anything like that. It's just a traditional Fender neck. Obviously, no skunk stripe. This is sort of designed in the Les Paul tradition with mahogany neck, mahogany body. It's got a maple top. So again, very Gibson-esque, but with its own sort of unique sound. So it has Seymour Duncan design pickups. Like I said, it has a neck pickup is the Seymour Duncan 59, and the bridge pickup is the Pearly Gates. So I would say probably a little bit higher output than a traditional like PAF style Gibson, but certainly that goodness of humbuckers. And what I do love is having the coil tap. You get right to those tele sounds kind of right away. You can get that nice twang. I really do love that. I feel like the electronics are really nice. The switch is really nice. The binding is beautiful. It's like a cream yellow in this example, and it matches the neck. I know that there's some budget binding out there where the neck doesn't necessarily match the body. This does. All the finishing looks really good. One thing that you'll have to decide if you like or not, it's sort of up to you, but I don't know if you can catch the light. The neck is a gloss neck. There you go. You can see kind of the reflections. The neck is a gloss neck. It matches the body as far as in finish. It is a silky, nice, smooth gloss neck, but if you're not the kind of person that likes a gloss neck, it may not be for you. These are sort of your stock Telecaster standard tuners, two-string trees, which is a little bit different from some of the American-made. And for the price, that is maybe the one complaint that I have. This is a $1,000 guitar, and it's made in Indonesia. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it puts you in the price point of the Mexican made Strats and Mexican made Teles, which share a lot of the same components with your American counterparts, whereas this is sort of built in the similar situation as Squier. So it's $1,000, which I think is kind of an expensive guitar, considering that it's made overseas. Now, I have nothing against overseas guitars. One of my very favorite guitars is that Epiphone right there, and it's overseas. My Ibanez's are made overseas. There's nothing to say that an overseas guitar is bad or better, but just in terms of Fender goodness, I would say it's surprising to see that a guitar of this price point would be made in Indonesia. It also has sort of the modern take on the Telecaster bridge. It's not the ashtray large bridge with compensated brass saddles. It's more of the modern Telecaster through body. I actually would have liked it if they would have done a tunematic bridge, since this is such an obvious nod to Gibson. I mean, it's even got a carved top. So I don't know of any other Telecaster that's got a carved top. This isn't necessarily an extreme carve, but you can see, and it is nice to play. There is definitely a carve, and but it also has a little bit of relief there. I wish it had a little bit more of an arm carve, just because I find Stratocasters super comfortable because of the arm carve. But it is a little bit thinner than a standard Gibson, so in that respect, I think it is a little more comfortable. It's definitely lightweight. This version weighs about 6.5 pounds, and I challenge you to find a Gibson that weighs that weight. So if you're this kind of person like me who's got not a great back, or you don't want to be carrying around a boat anchor, a 9-pound or a 10-pound guitar, and you still want those humbucker sounds, and I know I compare it to a Les Paul, but really that's kind of the mainstay of HH guitars, of humbucker guitars, would be like a Les Paul or an SG. This kind of keeps the weight down, but with a much better balance on the body than an SG. So it's a Telecaster at heart, but certainly is wearing its heart on its sleeve a little bit with the Gibson throws. Now, the one thing I also have to say is I haven't seen too many flames that are just that beautiful. This would remind me of what they call a doctor's guitar, something like a Paul Reed Smith, and a high-priced Paul Reed Smith at that. The flaming on this, and I don't think the camera's really doing it justice. It's really three-dimensional. The finish on this guitar is absolutely beautiful. Definitely something that stands out from the crowd. Whether you like the gloss or not, I think this is a kind of guitar that if you were, performing, it would definitely turn heads. I like that it's got the matched headstock with the beautiful raised Fender logo. It's not just a stamp or something. It's an actual logo. I wish that Fender would include locking tuners. For $1,000, you think that would be something that would be included. Now, it's a $50 or so upgrade to put locking tuners on this. Fender makes them. They're decent. They're on the American-made Strat that I have there in the corner. So it's not a terribly expensive upgrade, but for a $1,000 guitar Fender, if you're listening, I really would love it if you would include that. And then also, I don't have a problem with Indian Laurel, but again, it's something that's found on more budget guitars. I wish this were rosewood. You can see mine has kind of a weird grain pattern. You can see where it's dark there on the high side. It's kind of an interesting look. Every guitar is going to be different, so it depends on the guitar, on the actual copy, as to what your fretboard will look like. But I don't mind it. It doesn't really affect the play. I like the abalone inlay markers. Again, dots are kind of plain. I wish that Fender would do something a little different, but it is Fender, so that's kind of what they're up to. So with that, we're going to hop over and listen to some tones. You're going to be hearing them all through my Amp Academy from NuX, directly into Logic. All right, so that was just a small sampling. As I always tell in every review, I am not a great guitarist. This is definitely an interesting guitar. That being said, does it replace a Les Paul? I think that's the question you need to ask yourself. Really, yes, with the coil tap, it does do some Telecaster tones. But these pickups are definitely hotter than you would find in your classic Les Paul, say a 59 or 58, or something like that, or an Epiphone in that realm. It doesn't have hot pickups. This definitely does have much hotter pickups than that. Also, does it have the same sustain? Does it have the same feel? For me, I think the big attraction for some, and maybe not for others, is the neck profile. This is a Fender neck through and through. It feels like my other Telecaster, feels like my Fender Strats. Like the actual carve of the neck feels very similar. It does not feel like my Les Paul. So for that, you can make your decision for yourself. For me, I like the feel of this guitar. Will this be a guitar that I play instead of Les Paul? I'm really not sure about that. There's something to be said about having the four controls that really I love, having the ability to blend the two pickups together. But if you're someone who's looking for a guitar that saves weight, gives you a lot of those tones, but also gives you some Strat and cleaner tones like Telecaster tones, this might be the very best guitar for you. Plus, it's beautiful. It's lightweight. It's not too heavy. It really is a nice guitar. I think Fender, maybe with the exception of locking tuners, would probably say this is a guitar that could be a lifetime guitar for you, for someone who's looking for something like that. But for me, it's just another brick in the wall, so to speak. I don't have a shortage of guitars in my life. I do like the neck profile. For me, I do love this guitar. I think it's beautiful. It definitely stands out from the crowd. This is not something you'd see on every street corner, so to speak. It is sort of a beautiful guitar. I love the black hardware and the black pickup rings. The tuners are kind of that... They're sort of that same like black chrome. So there's definitely kind of a cool vibe going here. Fender, if you are listening, which I'm sure you're not, but if you are, great job on the frets. They feel fantastic. With the binding, there's absolutely no issues with fret sprout or anything like that. They weren't gritty coming home from the store. They feel like nicely polished frets. I wish they were stainless steel, but I think that probably more people wish that more frets on more guitars were stainless steel, especially with the infusion of guitars coming from China that have stainless steel frets for a very low price point. So something to think about for the future for all of the guitar manufacturers out there. Lastly, I will say this guitar is, like I said, about $1,000, but you can find good deals out there in the used market. I think that probably the fact that it's made in Indonesia is definitely hurting its resale value. So something to think about as you decide to make the purchase or not. But with that being said, thank you so much, Gear Junkies, for subscribing, for tuning in again, for liking, for commenting, for sharing. So I really appreciate all of the support I've been receiving, all the comments that you've given me over the last few videos. I know this channel is new. I know I have miles to go to improve. I would love to hear your feedback on how I can do better in the future. But with that being said, thank you all again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.